What is up, everybody? Sysadmin Sean here, and today on Sysadmin Struggles, we're going to talk about something that causes quite a lot of struggle in quite a lot of organizations, and that is knowledge siloing. So stay tuned for that one. So if you're in an organization, maybe you're the new admin, maybe you've been an admin for a while, but you haven't really worked with certain groups ever, or maybe you've been an admin for a while, you know exactly what I'm about to talk about. You're going to run into situations where there are individuals that you work with that are the go-to for some specific thing, or even multiple specific things. You may get some tickets for things you don't know how to do, and people will just go, oh, go ahead and send that over to so-and-so. Or so-and-so just says, make sure I get a hold of that. I'll do it. What happens is they become a knowledge silo. They are the only place you can go to for some specific process, some certain product, some certain thing, that they are basically the keeper of the castle, so to speak, their own little fiefdom of knowledge and power. These happen multiple different ways. One way is you're just a one-person IT shop, and you're going to be the only knowledge. You're going to be the only silo. That's kind of how things happen. And then maybe you hire one other person, and then it's hard to train them because you've been used to only being the knowledge silo. Another way is folks got hired in maybe multiple years ago. They've grown up with they've been there a long time, so they have all of the knowledge. And then there hasn't been a good culture of documentation and cross-training to get them to kind of spread the knowledge to other workers. That's another way it goes. And a third way is some people just don't share their work. They do a bunch of stuff, kind of in the shadow IT almost situation. They do a whole lot of work. They either don't put in tickets, they don't document their work, they really don't let people know what they're doing, and then it kind of becomes their own little power sphere, so to speak, their own little silo of power and knowledge that they don't share with anyone else because usually they're afraid to be perfectly honest. And we'll get into that a little bit later. And now's later. Why do we have these things? Well, again, one, if it's a one-person shop and you're the new person to a one-person shop, it's a big change because they've been used to doing everything themselves. They're not used to relying on others. They're probably not very comfortable relying on others, so they're hesitant to share knowledge. They're hesitant to cross-train. But they will be more than willing to throw you under the bus when you don't know what's going on. If they are willing to cross-train and they are willing to help you out, they're usually very willing to say, oh, I just didn't teach them that yet. That's on me. We don't have that documented yet. That's on me. I'm working on that. And that's where you can come in and say, well, have me do this process and follow the document you do have, and I'll tell you where things mess up. That's one of the best ways that I've ever cross-trained anyone. We'll document all of the process. And then when you get a new person, you go make them do all the documentation, have them go through every process that you've documented, find out what's working, find out where they run into hiccups, find out where their permissions are. And, that will help you build a better onboarding process overall, which leads to better cross-training, better documentation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get the folks that kind of hoard knowledge. They've been in a situation for a long time. They've learned all this stuff on their own. They don't want to share it because they probably worked really hard for that knowledge. I was very guilty of this when I was a younger sysadmin. I worked somewhere that I was kind of the only one. And then when we finally were able to hire more people to work with me, I expected them to already know everything that I knew, even though that wasn't possible. And I got frustrated a lot when they didn't know what to do. When I would go, why don't they know how to do that? It's really simple. You just do this and this and this. Well, it was simple for me because I worked and I researched and I learned how to do it. It's not simple for them. It takes, quite a long time to get someone up to speed if you don't give them the building blocks and knowledge to help get them up to speed. That's where great documentation comes into play. So I was being a knowledge silo. I had to change that. My boss said, listen, what happens if you break your leg? What happens if you go on vacation? What happens if you win the lottery? I can't lose you right now, but I also don't want to keep you if you're going to be like this. This isn't helpful for all of us. So I started thinking about it, and yeah, that's right. The more knowledge I can disperse to the other team members, the less critical I am, which means the easier it is for me to take time off. The easier it is for me to go have a life outside of work, which is really important. I had been doing all the on-call and all the work for a really long time, and then we hired somebody, and they really couldn't be comfortable on call because they didn't know how to fix anything without reaching out to me anyway. So having an on-call rotation didn't make any sense, even though I was the one that wanted it. So I had to start letting go of what I felt was something I worked really hard on, and more about making sure I educate folks, one, how I figured things out, and two, what I figured out. Because if they didn't understand our processes in our specialized environment, they weren't going to know how to research our processes better to improve them, to learn about them, and just do better as a worker. But there are these folks that still kind of covet their knowledge. They keep it to themselves. They don't share. They usually aren't really reprimanded for not sharing. A lot of times people just go, oh, that's just so-and-so, and that's just how they are. That's detrimental to the entire organization. That doesn't help anybody. That causes more problems than solutions, to be perfectly honest. And then because that person will at some point retire or quit, or, any other number of situations where they will be gone, and then you'll just be out to that information. What do you do there? Well, you've really got to be in an organization that supports cross-training. You've got to be in an organization that really enforces and expects documentation and, things like that. If you're in a place where, you do the work and you finish it and you don't write it down and no one reprimands you for that, no one says, hey, why didn't you put a solution in? Hey, why didn't you document how that process works? Then they're almost as much a part of the problem as the person siloing the knowledge. It's not so much to try to catch somebody out and terminate them. It's more just getting them in a sense of, I can give up this knowledge and I'm not going to lose my job because that's not what's keeping me here. What's keeping me here is my problem solving skills, my communication skills, my ability to help others. These are the important parts that you really want to keep in an employee, not, well, they know this one little piece of software from 35 years ago that we still run for some insane reason, and we can't really train anybody else because they won't share. So you've got to, as an organization, you have to hope that your supervisors and everyone else in your unit and in all other units is focusing really hard on cross-training and on documentation and supporting people that do this, giving praise and accolades to, oh, look, so-and-so put in 15 new articles and we tested them and they all work great and they're really good, wonderful cross-training opportunity. They've lowered ticket counts. That's a great one. If you can document something, if you know some sort of magical piece of knowledge that no one else knows, but you're also tired of getting 50 tickets about it, one, there's something really wrong with that system if you're getting 50 tickets about it a week. But if you can push that knowledge off to tier 1 and say, hey, this is a known issue, or this is something that a lot of users run into, have them try this anytime they call for this. And you'll probably end up not having anywhere near as many tickets about that. And that's huge because it leads you to be able to do other things, to learn new stuff. And then that's all new knowledge that you get to spread with others. And so everyone develops and everyone grows when you share your knowledge and you're not a knowledge silo. It's really frustrating. What can you do as a young sysadmin? Well, the first thing is you really don't want, and this is what I do, which is a problem still. You don't want to just go in and be like, this person's not helping me. They're being completely unresponsive. They won't teach me anything. They're not showing me the ropes. That doesn't really get anything done, sadly, unless your supervisor is going to go in there and ream them thoroughly for not following procedures. Nothing's going to change because there's probably not policy saying that cross-training is required and that documentation is required and that if you don't document, other things can occur. If you don't have these kind of things, then you're not going to get anywhere. So the better answer is to say, what are our documentation policies? What are our cross-training policies and procedures? And, remind people that we need to get better as a group, not just one person that's being problematic and not giving information. We need to look at the organization and say, why don't we have processes in place that state that documentation needs to exist? Why don't we have processes in place to help with better cross-training? Why aren't we having meetings where we get the new people up to speed with what the current people know? These are the kind of things that are more, you're being more collaborative, you're being more compromising, you're understanding, you're seeing a situation in the environment that needs to be fixed, and you're coming up with a solution that sounds better than, I can't get my job done because blank. Now, it might end up being that you don't get any of that. You can ask, and you should ask. If you're missing stuff like cross-training, if you're missing stuff like documentation, always ask for it. Say, hey, I'll document it. Show me how to do the process, and I'll write it down. That's a great one too, because a lot of people are nervous to write documentation, maybe feel like they don't have great organizational skills, but it's a great exercise for both people so that they get practice communicating and explaining how a process works, and you get practice with documenting. And then as you start building these documents up, you have a basis to build off of that when the next new guy comes in, then you're the one that's got the knowledge and you're cross-training them and you're showing them documentation. So you're, improving the environment for yourself and others by just offering to help do the documenting part. I do that all the time. I love to do documentation. That's one of my favorite things. Maybe we'll do a video about that if I haven't already. So all that to say, knowledge siloing, keeping your own little kingdom, that is a complete detriment to any IT infrastructure. It's going to exist forever, probably. This isn't something that's going to get fixed overnight, and it's going to be frustrating. Don't let it get to you, especially if you're a young sysadmin. It's nothing personal. They're not trying to keep you from doing a good job. Well, I mean, they might be, but I'd like to believe that no one is out there trying to stop you from having a good work experience unless they feel like they're threatened for some reason. But again, that's one of those silly ideas that a lot of people get from bad working environments, and it causes a lot of these bad sysadmin practices like knowledge siloing. So the more you can do to make your environment better and to help support these people and convince these people that holding on to the knowledge isn't the best route of options, it's going to make it better for everybody. So that's it for this one, and we'll see you in the next one.